Alright guys, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV and it's Loan Watch Part 2. After we ran through about 10 names yesterday, including Brandon Barker, Enes Anal, Yo-Yo Boa, Bersan Talin and all the first team players like Joe Hart, we've got 13 more names for you. It's another mammoth bumper edition of the Loan Watch. And we're going to start with a player that you've all been asking about for a very, very long time. Where is Aaron Mooy, you were all saying when we never did a reaction video? Well, we didn't do one because we didn't think technically he's one of those Manchester City players that had a chance with City. We thought he was another one of those little signings that would go through the club, never actually play for City and go somewhere else for getting a transfer. And that still may happen, but it also might not. Now, he started life on loan at Huddersfield Town absolutely brilliantly. He's been a shining star for them, arguably their best player as they sit at the top of the Championship table. And they love him, absolutely love him over at Huddersfield. They're even comparing him, ridiculously, to Zinedine Zidane. Now, that's obviously hyperbole taken to another level, but he has had a wonderful start there. And I'm starting to think, I'm wondering, maybe he could be a surprise package next season. Maybe if he is the best player in a team that wins the league potentially, and he is gliding around, dominating midfield, and he also has an 83% pass accuracy in a league that's very technical and scrappy, and not technical, sorry, very scrappy and very physical. And he's also got 2 goals as well, absolute rockets, one of them, and an assist. He's showing that he can boss that league, and you never know, maybe he could be an outsider. And the signs look very, very promising. He's in for a chance to be one of the best players in the Championship, if not the best player, and that's encouraging as far as I'm concerned. And hopefully he can keep up for the rest of the season, and maybe he'll be coming back to Manchester City in the season as a bit of an outsider with Pep Guardiola. On to another player that we signed in the summer, Marlos Moreno. He's gone on loan to Deportivo, and I think it's fair to say so far life has been pretty average for him. He started 3 games and each time he's been subbed off, and going off what I found on Twitter, the Deportivo fans aren't very impressed with him so far. In fact, they've been pretty critical, saying he's been really, really bad. I don't think we're going to sign a player who's obviously terrible. And for when we spoke to Tim Vickery, and I put a link in the description for that as well, or above my head right now, when we spoke to Tim Vickery about that, he was a massive fan of him, and he's a very well-respected journalist in South America. He said he was almost as highly rated as Gabriel Jesus. So you've got to presume that so far Marlos Moreno's just had a slow start to life over there. I'm sure, hopefully, given a few more games when he adapts to the culture and the league, he'll start to find his own there over in Spain. Patrick Roberts. Now, we've all got a lot of expectations for him for obvious reasons. He's a potential star in the making. And last season, obviously, he was on loan at Celtic too, and he set the league alight over there. He won Scottish Player of the Month. He scored 6 goals in just 9 league games. And in general, he was an absolute nightmare for Scottish defences. It's been a weird one this season. For whatever reason, he's down the pecking order. They've signed Scott Sinclair, obviously Moussa Dembele as well, and they've got more forward options this season. And he's only really had 1 start in the league and made 4 substitute appearances. There is plenty of time for the season still for him, but it is a weird one. I did expect him to take the league by storm this year and really prove his worth and potential. But Brendan Rodgers, for whatever reason, doesn't really rate him at the moment. But once again, it is only early days, and fingers crossed he can show some of that form that he's made his name for over the coming months, and I'm sure he will indeed. On to another player that once again we signed, Zinchenko. I think a few of us expect him to stay around, and I thought there might be an outsider chance of that, but he hasn't stayed around. He's obviously a very versatile player. He can play apparently at left back, attacking midfield, in midfield. He's gone on loan to PSV, which on paper is a very good move because they are obviously a good team who play at a high level in European competitions. But so far, he's had a slow start to life over there. Just the 1 substitute appearance, only 35 minutes. I don't know if there's a bigger reason for that. It might be that just slowly bedding him in. It might be that he had a slight knock, but details are very hard to find online. But so far, his life at PSV hasn't really got going. But once again, fingers crossed there'll be more games in the future. Jack Byrne is another player who spent last season over in Holland. He was at Cambuur, and he was very good there. They did struggle, Cambuur. They're near the bottom of the table. I think they might have even got relegated. But he was their one shining light, and the fans over there absolutely adored him. He was tenacious, technical, and all-round central midfielder with ability to really dictate from deep and get forward and score the odd cracker. Now, I think it's fair to say, so far at Blackburn, he's struggled a little bit. This is why I don't like loans to the Championship. I've been quite vocal about that in the past. I think loans to the Championship are a real poison chalice. I think in general, it's such a dog-eat-dog league that there's so much at stake in terms of money from either getting relegated or trying to chase that glorious pot of gold that everyone calls the Premier League, that managers aren't willing to stick with a young player for if they're not showing signs of instant success. And this is why loans for young players there don't tend to work. It's very rare that they do, and it's why we haven't sent many players there in the past on loan. Now, Jack Byrne went there, and so far he's been made a little bit of a scapegoat, if I'm being honest. I know a few Blackburn fans, and I spoke to a few, and he said he did okay and showed some signs of ability, but the second that he had a poor game, he was hooked and immediately dropped out of the squad. It's a little bit harsh, but maybe, you know, this is his decision. Owen Coyle is the manager there, and he's not necessarily a modern thinker, I think it's fair to say. He's a little bit one of the old kind of school managers, and I'm not sure if he's going to find a place for Jack Byrne at the moment. What I would say in general is you can't use this as an example of his ability or his potential. I think if you put David Silva in a struggling Blackburn team near the bottom of the league in the Championship, he would struggle too, because his game isn't set up to play in a team like that. You need movement, you need players who are going to play that one-touch technical passing, and that's why players who've been taught to play in a style like Manchester City's, who've been taught to play this intricate passing, moving game, they're going to struggle in a team that just wants to hit it long or play more physical. They'd be better off having a big, tall lad there who's fast and strong. Jack Byrne isn't that, but it doesn't mean he's a bad footballer. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but fingers crossed he'll get a few more games towards the end of the season. But so far, it's been a pretty bad move for him. On to one of his EDS partners from previous years, Sinan Tijani. He's a young Kosovan attacking midfielder stroke winger. He's gone on loan to the brilliantly titled Go Ahead Eagles over in Holland, and they're currently, I think they're 10th or 11th, around mid-table anyway, and they've had a pretty decent start. He's already had 3 starts over there, and they did join him quite late. He's had 3 starts, and he's got 1 assist as well. I think he won a penalty for them, and they're sat around mid-table, and he's easing his way into the team in general. I do like Sinan Tijani. I think he's one of the kind of players that might have even stayed around potentially and been able to do a good job as a utility player. He looked pretty good in pre-season when he came on. Very powerful, very direct. Bit of like a James Milner kind of player in terms of an all-rounder who can play in several rows. But I think he'll slowly start to ease his way into life over in Holland, and fingers crossed he'll get a few, well, I'm sure he will get plenty of games, and I reckon he could surprise a few people in the future. Another surprise was Olivier Giroud. He got voted for the Golden Boy Award, which is obviously a collection of Europe's best young players. He's on that list alongside Kelechi and Leroy Sané. Now, I'll be honest, I was quite surprised by that. He did have a very good start to his 2-year loan to Genoa in Italy last season, when he stole quite a few headlines and even got probably, well, yeah, I did a loan video, but before I even started doing regular videos for BlueMoonRisingTV, they asked me to come in about a year ago, and I chatted about and Chan was one of the people, and he was getting compared to Pogba at the time, and I did say that was probably a little bit over the top, but he was playing very good football. Now, since then, his form's dipped a little bit and gone up and down, and he's in and out of the first team every now and then, and it's been the same this season so far. He's scored a goal already this season, but he's only been like a squad player. Started 3 or 4 games, coming off the bench for 3 or 4 games. He is a good player. He has got a lot of ability, but he kind of dips from one extreme to the other in terms of 1 minute he looks like Yaya Toure, the next minute he looks like Joey Barton. But he's made that shortlist. He's obviously turned a few heads, and fair play to him. He has got a very good shot on him. He's got a good all-round game. He just needs to prove himself over a long period of time. And this is the last year of a 2-year loan spell now. So it'll be interesting to see what he makes of it this year. On to another player who's obviously a very good all-rounder, Keon Brian. I'm a fan of Keon Brian. He's a local lad, and he's been the captain for the EDS for at times and for the under-18s. And I just like his game in general. I would like to have seen him stay, and there might have been a chance that it might have happened if he didn't pick up a very unfortunately timed injury in pre-season. He was one of the lads who was meant to go with the first team when Guardiola went over to China and so on. Well, obviously when we played Arsenal in Sweden, but he got a wrist injury thing, and that knocked him out of the plans. And after that, it's very hard to make a name of yourself when all the other players are coming back and all the first team ones are. But Keon is very much liked at the club, and rightfully so. He's very good technically, as all our young players are, but he's a warrior. That's what I most like about him. He's about 6'3", strong. He can play in defensive midfield or at centre back. And he's gone on loan to Bury, a local club. He's had to bide his time a little bit, but about 3 games ago, he got a chance early on when their regular centre back got injured, and he came on for 75 minutes. And going up what I read on their forums, obviously clips of Bury's highlights are hard to find. The fans gave him man of the match for that game, said he looks like he'd been playing there for years, like an experienced head. And since then, he's made 2 more starts, and each time he's absolutely bossed it, winning man of the match twice, and also being, in general, a very reliable, solid player, distributing well with long-range passes and making solid, really strong, perfectly timed interceptions. I like Keon. I'm hoping he'll prove himself at a level that he's more than capable of bossing that, and so far he is. Fingers crossed he'll get a chance next season, maybe in pre-season. On to his ex-midfield partner, Jorge Glendon in the ADS. George has gone on loan to Fleetwood Town. So far, his appearances have been pretty fleeting. Terrible pun, but that's genuinely true. He's made 2 substitute appearances. He's actually Uwe Rosler. He's the manager at Fleetwood Town. He's taken him there to give him a chance. Uwe Rosler is actually in the stands quite a lot at the CFA. He's always around the stadium, always watching the games. I saw him a lot last year, just sat watching casually. So he knows what Jorge Glendon can do. He's a very comfortable, deep line kind of playmaker. He can push forward a little bit more, but in general, he's one of those kind of neat technical players. I did worry a little bit about going on loan to a very physical league, if it was going to be the kind of place where someone like him could blossom, because he's all about passing and moving and so on. But he could be a decent little squad player for Fleetwood Town. It's been very limited so far, but there is early days, so fingers crossed he can get a few games as the season develops. Manu Garcia, now this is a weird one. We've all got a lot of very high hopes for Manu Garcia, and in general he's a sublimely talented young lad, and it's fair to see when you've seen him against Chelsea and in his general little appearances under Pellegrini last year, it's fair to see why he's rated so highly at City. But also, I watched a lot of him with the under 18s and the under 21s, and at times, if I'm being honest, he struggled for form. He was often outshone by the likes of Brahim and so on, and Selena. All these people were much more reliable, much more consistent performers at that level than he was. And he did at one point get benched during the FA Youth Cup run by Brahim, who was obviously 2 years younger than him. Manu Garcia is a fantastic young player. He's got a great attitude and a great temperament, but he does obviously need to find his own identity, so to speak, and learn how to kind of stamp his own authority on first team football. He's gone on loan to Alaves, who obviously a Spanish team, but he's only gone on loan seemingly to their second team, their B team, so to speak, and he hasn't made a first team appearance yet. There's been a lot of confusion because Alaves' captain is actually called Manu Garcia too, so a lot of times City fans have thought he's playing when he hasn't. It's actually been the other one. He's not made the matchday squad yet. I do wonder if there's something more to this than meets the eye, that maybe it's one of those loans with the eye of a permanent transfer. I know that might sound sacrilegious given how talented he looks, but it's up to him to prove that he could maybe will do it at first team level and then impress next season. On to another player, Shea Facey. He was obviously on loan at New York City at times last year. Then he went on loan to Rotherham. That didn't go too well, but now he's gone on loan to Heerenveen, another player who's headed over to the Dutch league. And he made his first start a couple of weeks ago. Did pretty well at centre back, but then unfortunately got sent off. But that wasn't enough then to deter the manager to pick him for the next game, and he started in the domestic cup over there. Now obviously he's suspended, but he's only just got into the team, but so far the signs look promising there. Bruno Zuccolini, the man who constantly goes out on loan anywhere. We don't know what the situation with Bruno at the moment. He seems to be a man for hire to various clubs. He's had some terrible luck, if I'm being honest, in terms of injuries, in terms of a lack of form. But he looked pretty good in pre-season when we initially signed him. But yeah, now he's gone to Rayo Vallecano, who are in the Segunda Division over in Spain. And he's a regular. He started a lot of games. He seems to be playing well. I don't know too much about his individual performances, but all I can do is look at the fact that he's in a team mid-table and he seems to be starting for them regularly. Fingers crossed he'll prove himself a little bit and maybe get himself a transfer that he needs away from the club to further his career. And on to the last one, and this is a very big one. We almost didn't put this guy on the list, but technically he is away on loan. Gabriel, Jesus, the Brazilian wonder kid. I think it's fair to say since he signed for City, life's been pretty good for him. It was good anyway, but it's got even better. He's obviously tearing up the Brazilian league, but he's also made his full international debut for Brazil since then. He's had 3 goals in as many games, and in general, looked like a potential star in the making. He'll be back at Manchester City in January. He'll be back before all these are, and I can't wait to see him in a blue shirt because I think he's going to do some pretty special things for us. But Blues, that is the second part of our Loan Watch over. Go and check out the Loan Watch Part 1, where we'll put a link in the description. So we've got the likes of Enes Anal, Brandon Barker, Selena, Smith Brown, then all the first team players like Joe Hart, Sami Nasri and so on, because that's a very interesting video too. Drop a like in the video, get in the comments, let me know what you think of the loans so far, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Alright guys, it's Stephen here on BlueMoonRisingTV, and we're going to do something today that you've all been asking for in the comments for a very, very long time, and